The morning sun cast long shadows across Seoul spaceport as 30 women walked toward humanity's first starship designed for diplomatic missions. The ship called New Dawn stood gleaming white against the clear blue sky. Its hull bore the symbols of Earth and the United Nations painted in gold letters. Ambassador Kim Hana adjusted her formal diplomatic uniform one last time. She had spent 3 years preparing for this moment. Today would mark the first official contact between humanity and the Galactic Council. At 42 years old, Hana had negotiated peace treaties between nations on Earth. Now she would represent her entire species. Dr. Park Mirai checked her scientific equipment cases for the 5th time that morning. The young xenobiologist carried samples of Earth life and detailed records of human biology. She hoped to exchange knowledge with alien scientists. Her hands trembled slightly with excitement as she thought about the discoveries waiting among the stars. "Are you nervous?" asked engineer Nam So-young as she joined Mirai near the boarding ramp. So-young had designed sustainable habitats that could work on different planets. Her blueprints showed how humans could live peacefully alongside other species without harming their worlds. "More excited than nervous," Mirai replied with a smile. "This is what we trained for our whole lives." Around them, 27 other women prepared to make history. They included doctors who studied alien diseases, teachers who created universal translation programs, artists who captured human culture in paintings and music, and engineers who designed peaceful technologies. Each woman was chosen for her expertise and her commitment to peaceful contact. Captain Yoon Hyebin called for boarding from the ship's entrance. The former military pilot had retrained specifically for this diplomatic mission. She understood that her job was not to fight but to safely deliver Earth's ambassadors to their meeting with alien civilizations. The women climbed aboard New Dawn with careful steps. Inside, the ship hummed with quiet energy. The walls displayed images of Earth's oceans, forests, and cities. The designers wanted aliens to see the beauty of humanity's homeworld. As New Dawn lifted away from Earth, the 30 women watched their planet shrink to a blue dot in the view screen. They carried with them the hopes of 8 billion humans who dreamed of joining the galactic community in peace. The journey to Nexus Prime took 18 days. The neutral space station served as a meeting place for different alien species. It floated in empty space between star systems, belonging to no single empire or kingdom. The Galactic Council had chosen this location to ensure no species felt threatened by meeting on another's territory. During the long journey, the women studied everything known about alien cultures. They practiced greeting rituals, learned basic phrases in several alien languages, and rehearsed their presentations about human civilization. Hana reviewed her speech dozens of times, making sure every word promoted peace and cooperation. "Remember," Hana told her team during their final briefing, "we are not just representing our countries or even Earth. We represent humanity's future among the stars. Everything we do and say will shape how aliens see our entire species for generations." Dr. Choi Yaram, the team's medical expert, nodded seriously. She had developed new medical technologies that could help alien species. "We show them that humans want to heal, not harm," she said quietly. Artist Lee Jun had painted portraits of humans from every continent, showing Earth's diversity. "Art speaks when words cannot," she added. "These paintings will show aliens that humans value all life and beauty." When New Dawn finally approached Nexus Prime, the women pressed against the viewports to see the massive station. It looked like a giant crystal flower floating in space, with different sections built by various alien species. Docking bays designed for dozens of different ship types jutted out from the central hub. "Incoming transmission from Nexus Prime Control," announced the ship's communication officer. A translated voice filled the bridge, welcoming the human delegation and providing docking instructions. Captain Hyebin guided New Dawn into the assigned bay with expert precision. Through the viewport, they could see alien beings moving around the docking area. Some walked on 2 legs like humans, while others had different body shapes entirely. All wore what appeared to be ceremonial robes or uniforms. "This is it," Hana whispered to herself as the ship settled into its berth. The airlock connected with a soft hiss. Beyond the sealed door waited representatives of the most powerful empire in the galaxy, the Dracon hegemony. The Star Sovereign. Velthak himself had come to meet the humans, which was considered a great honor. As the 30 women prepared to disembark, they felt the weight of history on their shoulders. They straightened their diplomatic uniforms, picked up their gifts and cultural presentations, and walked toward the airlock with steady steps. The door opened to reveal a magnificent corridor lined with alien guards in elaborate armor. The guards stood perfectly still, their faces hidden behind ceremonial masks. Crystalline walls reflected colored light, creating patterns that seemed to dance around the human delegation. At the far end of the corridor stood the Star Sovereign himself. Velthak was nearly 3 meters tall, his skin a deep purple color, marked with silver patterns. His forearms wore golden bands of office and his eyes glowed with an inner light. Behind him stood dozens of other aliens, all male, all watching the humans with expressions that were difficult to read. Ambassador Hana stepped forward and offered the traditional greeting she had learned. She bowed respectfully and spoke the Hao, formal words in the Dracon language. "We come in peace, seeking friendship between our peoples." The Star Sovereign remained silent for a long moment. His glowing eyes moved across the human delegation, counting them one by one. The silence stretched uncomfortably as the alien ruler seemed to consider something. Finally, Velthak spoke in perfect English. His voice was deep and cold, carrying easily through the corridor. "You dare send females to speak with the ruler of 800 star systems." The words hit the human delegation like a physical blow. Hana felt her heart sink as she realized their carefully planned first contact was already going terribly wrong. "Your sovereignty," Hana began, trying to salvage the situation. "On Earth, we believe our most capable citizens should represent us regardless of gender. These women are our finest diplomats, scientists, and cultural ambassadors." Velthak's 4, hands clenched into fists. "Females do not speak to males of importance in civilized societies. You have insulted the dignity of the Dracon hegemony and shown your species lacks basic understanding of proper order." The alien guards began moving forward, their hands reaching for weapons. The other aliens in the corridor backed away, their faces showing a mixture of fear and anticipation. Dr. Mirai stepped closer to Hana, her scientific mind struggling to process what was happening. This was supposed to be a peaceful meeting between civilizations, not a confrontation over cultural differences. "Perhaps we can discuss our different customs," Mirai suggested hopefully. "We came here to learn about your culture and share our own." The Star Sovereign raised one of his hands and the guard stopped moving. For a moment, the humans dared to hope that reason might prevail. "Yes," Velthak said slowly, his voice carrying a terrible finality. "You will learn about our customs. You will serve as an example to all species who think to disrespect the Dracon hegemony." The guards drew their weapons with synchronized precision. Energy weapons hummed to life, casting an eerie glow across the crystalline walls. Ambassador Hana realized with growing horror that they had walked into a trap. The meeting was never meant to be diplomatic. The Star Sovereign had already decided that humanity needed to be taught a lesson about respect and proper hierarchy. In the final moments before violence erupted, Hana thought about Earth and the billions of humans waiting hopefully for news of successful first contact. She thought about her daughter back home, who dreamed of one day traveling to other worlds in peace. The 30 women of Earth stood together in that alien corridor, facing the end of their mission and their lives, never knowing that their sacrifice would ignite a war that would shake the galaxy to its foundations. The emergency alarm screamed through the halls of the Global Defense Council building in Geneva. President Lee Jinho ran down the corridor with his security team close behind. His phone had been ringing for 20 minutes with the same terrible message from different sources. The 30 women were dead. Jinho burst into the emergency meeting room where dozens of world leaders waited on video screens. Their faces showed the same mix of shock, horror, and growing rage that he felt burning in his chest. "Show me the recording," Jinho said to his intelligence chief. The main screen filled with images from Nexus Prime security cameras. 30 human women standing in a crystal corridor. The Star Sovereign giving orders in the Dracon language. Energy weapons firing in bright flashes, bodies falling to the floor. The room fell completely silent as the recording ended. He broadcast this across the entire galaxy, said Director Kim Yuna from the Intelligence Service. Every alien species has seen our diplomats murdered. Felthak calls it a lesson about proper respect for Dracon authority. President Jinho closed his eyes and took a deep breath. When he opened them again, his face looked 10 years older. Read me their names. Director Kim stood and opened a folder with shaking hands. Ambassador Kim Hana, age 42, survived by her daughter and parents. Dr. Park Mirai, age 29, who developed the new medical treatments for cancer. Engineer Nam So-young, age 35, designer of sustainable habitats. The list continued for several minutes. Each name was a life cut short, a family destroyed, a future stolen. Dr. Choi Yerim, who saved thousands with her medical inventions. Artist Lee Jun, whose paintings hung in museums around the world. Teacher Bae Suman, who taught children to dream of peaceful contact with aliens. 30 of our best and brightest, whispered General Kang Minho from his seat at the military table, murdered for the crime of being women. The president of Brazil spoke from his video screen. What does the galactic community say about this massacre? Director Kim looked at her reports with disgust. The Galactic Council issued a statement calling for measured diplomatic pressure. 3 alien species sent formal complaints to the Dracon hegemony. Most others said nothing at all. They are afraid, said the Prime Minister of India. The Draken hegemony controls nearly 900 star systems. They have 12,000 warships and rule over billions of alien slaves. General Kang stood up and activated a holographic display showing the galaxy. Red dots marked Dracon territory, covering almost a quarter of known space. They are militarily superior to us in every way that matters. Their technology is centuries ahead of ours. Their fleet could destroy Earth from orbit before we could mount any defense. President Jinho stared at the display for a long time. The red area seemed to pulse like an infected wound across the star map. What are our options, General? Surrender and hope they leave us alone. Try to negotiate from a position of weakness. Or prepare for a war we cannot win. The world leaders on the video screens began talking at once. Some called for immediate military action. Others demanded diplomatic solutions. A few suggested hiding and hoping the Dracon hegemony would forget about humanity. Enough, President Jinho said in a quiet voice that somehow silenced everyone. I want to see the memorials. Director Kim changed the main display to show news footage from around Earth. In Seoul, 1 million people gathered around holographic images of the 30 women. In New York, children placed flowers at a memorial wall. In Lagos, crowds sang songs of mourning. In Sydney, veterans of Earth's old wars wept openly as they read the names of the murdered diplomats. They were teachers, doctors, scientists, artists, said a young woman being interviewed in London. They went to bring peace and friendship to the galaxy. They were killed for being female and human. An old man in Tokyo spoke through tears. My granddaughter wanted to be a diplomat like Ambassador Kim. Now she asks me why the aliens killed the nice ladies who just wanted to be friends. President Jinho watched the footage of grieving humans around the world. Everywhere, people held pictures of the 30 women. Everywhere, the question was the same. What would humanity do about this injustice? The alien species think we are weak because we chose peace, General Kang said quietly. They see our diplomatic approach as evidence that we cannot fight. We fight? Asked the president of South Africa. Do we have any chance at all against such a powerful enemy? General Kang walked to the star map and pointed at Earth. We have advantages they do not understand. Human adaptability, creativity, and determination. We learn faster than any species in the galaxy. We innovate under pressure better than anyone else. That sounds like wishful thinking, said the Chancellor of Germany. Maybe, General Kang replied. But consider this. No alien species has ever seen humans at war. They think diplomacy is our only strength. They have never faced human military technology, tactics, or fighting spirit. President Jinho stood and walked to the window overlooking Lake Geneva. Outside, protesters held signs demanding justice for the 30 women. Their chants could be heard even through the thick security glass. What would full military mobilization look like? He asked without turning around. Every factory converted to weapons production. Every university focused on military research. Every able-bodied adult trained for warfare. Total transformation of human society from peaceful to warlike in the shortest possible time. And our chances of success? General, Kang was quiet for almost a minute. Unknown. We would be fighting enemies who have conquered the galaxy, but they have never fought humans before. The president turned back to face the room. His expression was calm, but his eyes burned with cold fire. The Star Sovereign made a mistake. He thinks killing our women would make us surrender. He does not understand that he has just given 8 billion humans a reason to become something we have never been before. What is that? Asked the Prime Minister of Canada. United in purpose. Every human on Earth now wants the same thing. Justice for the 30 women who died representing all of humanity. President Jinho walked back to the conference table and placed his hands on the surface. General Kang, you have unlimited authority to prepare Earth for war. Convert every factory, recruit every scientist, train every soldier. We are going to show the galaxy what happens when you murder humanity's daughters. The cost will be enormous, warned the director of the global economy. Converting to a war economy will change everything about how we live. The Dracon hegemony has ruled through fear for 1,000 years, President Jinho replied. They believe might makes right. They think smaller species exist only to serve them. Today they learned that they cannot murder human women without consequences. General Kong straightened to attention. What are your orders, Mr. President? Find me scientists who can close the technology gap. Find me soldiers who can outfight alien warriors. Find me strategists who can defeat an empire that has never known defeat. And if we cannot match their military power? President Jinho looked at the images of the 30 murdered women still displayed on the screens around the room. Then we will show them that humans would rather die fighting for justice than live accepting injustice. The meeting continued for 6 more hours as world leaders planned humanity's transformation from a peaceful species to a military force. Outside, the protests grew larger as more humans learned the details of what happened at Nexus Prime. By the end of the day, every major government on Earth had signed the Defense Unity Pact. For the first time in human history, the entire species would work together toward a single goal. The Star Sovereign Velthak had wanted to teach humanity a lesson about respect. Instead, he had taught 8 billion humans that some crimes demanded total war as the only possible response. The galaxy was about to learn what humans were capable of when someone murdered their women and threatened their freedom. The lesson would be written in fire across 1,000 star systems. 6 months after the massacre, Earth looked like a different planet. Where peaceful cities once stood, massive factories now worked day and night building weapons and starships. The sky above every continent glowed orange from the fires of industry. Dr. Odeho wiped sweat from his forehead as he walked through the underground laboratory beneath the Swiss Alps. Around him, 500 scientists worked on Project Nemesis, the secret program to develop weapons that could defeat Dracon technology. Show me the test results, Deho said to his assistant, Dr. Kim Haeun. Haeun pulled up holographic displays showing energy readings and weapon specifications. The new plasma cannons are 30% more powerful than Dracon weapons. Our shield technology can stop their energy beams for up to 40 minutes. Not enough, Deho replied, studying the data. They still have superior numbers and experience. We need weapons that are not just better, but completely unexpected. In another section of the laboratory, teams worked on adaptive artificial intelligence systems that could learn and change during battle. Human creativity had always been their greatest advantage over rigid alien thinking. The AI learning protocols are working beyond expectations, reported Dr. Song Hyuna from her computer terminal. Our battle computers can adapt to new enemy tactics in real time. No alien species has ever faced technology that changes its behavior during combat. Above ground, Commander Shin Woo-jin stood on a training field where 10,000 human soldiers practiced alien combat techniques. Unlike the strict formations used by Dracon forces, human military units emphasized flexibility and individual thinking. Remember, Wu Jin called out to the trainees. Alien militaries rely on hierarchy and following orders without question. We train every soldier to think, adapt, and make decisions in battle. That makes us unpredictable. Sergeant Park Jae-hyun led a squad through urban combat exercises designed to simulate fighting on alien worlds. His team moved like shadows, using stealth and surprise instead of brute force. The Draken fight like they parade, Jae-hyun explained to new recruits. They march in straight lines and follow predictable patterns. We will hit them from angles they never expect. In hidden bases on the Moon and Mars, 3 separate military branches prepared for interstellar warfare. The Void Hunters trained for ship-to-ship combat in zero gravity. The Stellar Marines prepared for planetary invasions. The Ghost Fleet practiced stealth attacks on supply lines. Captain Lim Taeyeon floated in a combat simulator, learning to fight inside spaceships where gravity could change direction without warning. Her squad practiced boarding enemy vessels and taking control of their bridge systems. Space combat is 3-dimensional chess, she told her pilots during a briefing. The enemy thinks in terms of naval battles on flat oceans. We will attack from above, below, and directions they cannot imagine. Meanwhile, intelligence officer Bae Jisoo worked to establish spy networks throughout alien space. Her agents were mostly human merchants and scientists who could travel without raising suspicion. We need to know everything about Dracon military. Bases, supply routes, and communication systems, Jisoo explained to her team. Information will be our greatest weapon. Her agents sent back detailed reports about Dracon society. The Empire ruled through fear and brutality. Slave species were kept in line with public executions and collective punishments. The Dracon military had never faced serious resistance because they crushed rebellions before they could grow. They are strong but inflexible, reported Agent Lee Seok-jin from a trading post near Dracon space. Their commanders follow ancient battle plans that have not changed in centuries. They cannot imagine fighting an enemy that refuses to follow the rules they expect. Back on Earth, every factory had been converted to military production. Car companies now built armored vehicles. Electronics manufacturers produced advanced communications gear. Even toy companies contributed by making small drones for reconnaissance missions. The global manufacturing protocol worked around the clock. Citizens volunteered for extra shifts, working 18 hours a day to build the weapons their species needed for survival. In Beijing, factory manager Wang Meilin oversaw production of the new human starships. Unlike the elegant curves of alien vessels, human ships looked crude and angular, but their armor was thicker and their weapons were mounted for maximum flexibility. We cannot build ships as beautiful as theirs, Wang explained to her workers. But we can build ships that are tougher and harder to kill. The first human battle cruiser, called Retribution, was 3 times the size of a Dracon destroyer, but carried 10 times the weapons. Its hull was covered with reactive armor that could absorb energy blasts and turn them into power for the ship's systems. Dr. Song Hyuna made another breakthrough in faster-than-light communication technology. By studying captured alien equipment, her team developed quantum communication systems that could coordinate attacks across multiple star systems. The Dracon use predictable communication patterns, she reported to General Kang. We can intercept their orders and jam their signals at critical moments. Throughout the solar system, mining operations expanded to gather raw materials for the war effort. Asteroid miners worked in dangerous conditions to extract metals needed for ship construction. Mars colonies grew food to feed the expanding military forces. The transformation of human society was total and voluntary. People gave up comfortable lives to work in weapons factories. Scientists abandoned peaceful research to develop military technology. Artists created propaganda that reminded everyone why they were fighting. On news screens around the world, images of the 30 murdered women appeared every day. Their faces reminded humans that this war was about justice, not conquest. They died trying to bring peace to the galaxy, said Memorial Director Yoon Soon-hee during a ceremony in Seoul. We honor them by ensuring their deaths lead to freedom for all oppressed peoples. Children born after the massacre grew up knowing they might have to fight aliens when they became adults. Schools taught military history alongside mathematics and science. Physical fitness became as important as academic achievement. But the Dracon hegemony remained unaware of humanity's preparations. Their spies reported that Earth was building some weapons and training some soldiers, but nothing that seemed threatening to their vast empire. Star Sovereign Veltek received reports from his intelligence officers with amusement. The humans build toys and call them warships, he said during a meeting with his generals. Their largest vessel carries fewer weapons than our smallest patrol boat. Should we destroy their homeworld now, before they become troublesome? Asked General Krex Valdron. Let them play at being warriors. Veltek replied with a laugh. When they realize their foolishness, we will conquer their planet and sell them as slaves. The lesson will be even more effective if we allow them to try and fail first. The Star Sovereign's arrogance would prove to be his greatest mistake. He saw human military preparations through Draken eyes, judging them by Draken standards. He could not imagine that a younger species might develop completely different ways of fighting. 2 years after the massacre, humanity was ready for war. Not ready to match the Draken hegemony in a direct battle, but ready to fight in ways that no alien species had ever seen before. General Kang stood in the command center deep beneath the Pacific Ocean, watching status reports from 1,000 secret bases. Human fleets were positioned throughout the solar system waiting for orders. Advanced weapon systems were charged and ready. Spy networks reported enemy positions and movements. We cannot defeat them in the way they expect to be defeated, he told his staff officers. But we can show them that humans refuse to accept injustice even when the odds seem impossible. President Lee Jinho appeared on the main communication screen from his bunker in Seoul. General, the people of Earth are ready. Our soldiers understand what they fight for. Our scientists have given us weapons the enemy has never faced. Our industrial capacity is at maximum production. What are your orders, Mr. President? Begin Operation 30 Flowers. Show the galaxy what happens when someone murders human women. Across human space, warships powered up their engines. Soldiers checked their equipment one final time. Scientists activated weapons that existed only in theory until that moment. The war that would reshape the galaxy was about to begin. It would not be fought according to ancient rules or traditional honor. It would be fought with human creativity, determination, and absolute refusal to surrender. The Dracon hegemony was about to learn that some species would rather die fighting than live in chains. The lesson would cost them their empire. The first sign of war was not explosions or battle cries, but silence. 17 Draken patrol fleets simply stopped reporting to their command centers. Their scheduled communications went unanswered. Their transponder signals vanished from tracking. Systems Admiral Krex Valdron stood in the command center of the Draken flagship Eternal Dominion, staring at the tactical display with growing concern. Red warning lights marked the locations where his patrols should have been. How does an entire fleet disappear without sending a distress call? He demanded from his communications officer. Unknown, Admiral. All ships were operating normally during their last report 6 hours ago. Valdron studied the star map, looking for patterns. The missing fleets had been patrolling the outer rim of Dracon territory, far from any known threats. No alien species in that region had the military capability to destroy even one Dracon warship. Send Battle Group Theta to investigate the Kepler 442 system, he ordered. Find out what happened to Patrol Fleet 7. 3 light-years away, Captain Lim Tyon floated in the command center of the human stealth ship Shadow Strike. Around her, the bridge crew worked in complete silence, monitoring enemy communications and tracking Dracon ship movements. Battle group approaching our position, reported Lieutenant Kim Dong-hyuk from his sensor station. 12 ships, including 1 heavy cruiser. Taeyeon studied the tactical display showing the incoming Dracon force. Her own squadron consisted of only 4 ships, but they carried weapons and tactics the enemy had never encountered before. All ships maintain stealth mode until my signal, she whispered into her communicator. Remember, we hit hard and fade away before they can respond. The human ships were invisible to Dracon sensors, using advanced stealth technology developed during the 2-year preparation period. They looked like empty space on enemy displays, allowing them to position themselves perfectly for ambush attacks. "Enemy ships entering weapons range," reported the tactical officer. "Launch drone swarms," Taiyan ordered. From each human ship, a cloud of tiny attack drones spread out like a metallic mist. The drones were too small to detect individually, but collectively they carried enough firepower to cripple much larger vessels. The Draken Battle Group Theta detected the drones only, moments before they struck. Hundreds of micro-explosions rippled across the hulls of alien warships as the swarm attacked critical systems. Shield generators overloaded. Weapon arrays went offline. Communication systems failed. "Now," Taiyan commanded. "All ships, focused. Fire on the command vessel." 4 human ships appeared from nowhere and opened fire simultaneously. Their plasma cannons had been designed specifically to penetrate Drakon armor, using rotating frequency modulation that made shields less effective. The enemy heavy cruiser Void Hammer tried to return fire, but its weapon systems had been disabled by the drone attack. Secondary explosions began tearing through its hull as the ship lost structural integrity. "Target destroyed," reported the weapons officer. "Remaining enemy ships are attempting to retreat." "Pursue and destroy," Taiyan ordered, coldly. "No survivors, no witnesses." The battle lasted 18 minutes. When it ended, 12 Drakon warships had been reduced to expanding clouds of debris and plasma. The human squadron had suffered only minor damage to one ship's shield array. "Mission accomplished," Taiyan reported to Fleet Command. Battle Group Theta eliminated, proceeding to next target. The news of the human victory spread quickly through both human and alien communication networks. For the first time in galactic history, someone had defeated a Drakon military force in open combat. Star Sovereign Velthak received the report while dining in his palace on Draken Prime. He read the intelligence summary twice before setting down his eating utensils with carefully controlled movements. "Explain to me how humans destroyed 12 of our warships," he said to Admiral Valdrin, in a voice that promised terrible consequences for wrong answers. "They used tactics we have never encountered before," Valdrin replied carefully. "Small ships that our sensors cannot detect. Weapons that change frequency to bypass our shields. Swarm attacks using thousands of tiny drones. You are telling me that a primitive species has superior technology to the Drakon hegemony?" "Not superior, my sovereign. Different. They fight in ways that our battle doctrine does not account for." Velthak stood and walked to the window overlooking his capital city. Below, millions of Drakon citizens went about their daily lives, confident that their empire was invincible. They had never known defeat because no species had been foolish enough to challenge Drakon power directly. "Send Battle Fleet Epsilon to crush this human rebellion," he ordered. 500 ships should be sufficient to exterminate every human vessel in space." "Yes, my sovereign. Shall I order them to destroy the human homeworld as well?" "Not yet. First, let them see their pathetic fleet destroyed, then they will surrender, and we can sell them into slavery as planned." Battle Fleet Epsilon was the pride of the Drakon military. 500 warships, including massive dreadnoughts that could destroy entire planets. The fleet had never been defeated in 3 centuries of conquest. Admiral Park Sung-ho received intelligence reports about the approaching Drakon armada, while his own fleet hid in the Series 7 asteroid belt. His force consisted of only 47 human ships, but he had advantages that no previous enemy of the Drakon hegemony had possessed. "They are coming straight for us," reported his intelligence officer. "No attempt at stealth or deception. They expect to overwhelm us with superior numbers." Park studied the battlefield he had chosen for this confrontation. The asteroid field contained thousands of large rocks, some bigger than human cities. Mining companies had been preparing this area for months, following military specifications. "All ships take positions according to Battle Plan Graveyard Gambit," he ordered. "Wait for my signal before revealing your locations." The Drakon battle fleet Epsilon arrived in the asteroid belt with flags flying and weapons charged for immediate combat. Admiral Krex Valdrin expected to find the pitiful human force cowering behind rocks, easy prey for his overwhelming firepower. "Sensors detect no enemy ships," reported his tactical officer. "They may have fled when they realized the size of our force." Impossible, Valdrin replied. Humans are too arrogant to retreat. They are hiding somewhere in this asteroid field. Find them. As the Draken fleet spread out to search the asteroids, human ships remained perfectly hidden using advanced stealth technology and the natural interference created by the dense rock field. Enemy formation is exactly where we predicted, reported Admiral Park's tactical officer. All ships report ready status. Park waited until the Drakon fleet had moved deep into the asteroid field, their ships scattered across a wide area to conduct their search. Execute Graveyard Gambit, he ordered quietly. Throughout the asteroid belt, thousands of mining charges that had been secretly placed over the previous months exploded simultaneously. The charges had been positioned to create a chain reaction that would turn every large asteroid into a weapon. Massive rocks accelerated by the explosions slammed into Drakon warships at incredible speeds. The aliens had shields designed to stop energy weapons, not solid objects moving faster than bullets. Ships that avoided the initial asteroid bombardment found themselves under attack by human vessels that appeared from hiding places throughout the belt. The battle became a three-dimensional nightmare of exploding rocks, energy beams, and ships maneuvering desperately to avoid collisions. We are being slaughtered, reported a Drakon captain over the emergency channel. Request immediate reinforcements. No, reinforcements available, Admiral Valdrin replied as he watched his fleet being destroyed by an enemy that refused to fight according to accepted rules. All ships retreat immediately. But retreat was impossible. The human fleet had positioned itself to block the main escape routes, and the continuing asteroid bombardment made navigation extremely dangerous. Of the 500 ships that entered the Series 7 asteroid belt, only 38 managed to escape. The rest were destroyed or disabled, their crews killed or captured by human boarding parties. The news of the Graveyard Gambit reached every corner of the galaxy within hours. The impossible had happened. A massive Drakon battle fleet had been almost completely destroyed by a much smaller human force. On planets throughout alien space, enslaved species whispered excitedly about the humans who dared to fight the invincible Drakon hegemony. For the first time in centuries, some began to hope that freedom might be possible. Star Sovereign Velthak stood in his throne room, listening to Admiral Valdrin's report of the disaster with growing rage. His hands clenched into fists as he realized that humanity was not the weak species he had assumed. How many ships did we lose? He asked in a deadly quiet voice. 462 destroyed or missing, Valdrin reported. Total crew casualties exceed 200,000. And human losses, estimated at fewer than 20 ships destroyed. They recovered most of their damaged vessels for repair. For the first time in his life, the Star Sovereign felt something he had never experienced before. Fear. Not fear of death, but fear that his empire might not be as strong as he had always believed. Double our border patrols, he ordered. Prepare our core battle fleets for extended warfare. These humans have shown they are more dangerous than we. 3 years into the war, the galaxy had learned to fear the sound of human engines. Admiral Cho Ji-won stood on the bridge of the massive battle station called Titan 1, watching another Drakon supply convoy burn in the darkness of space. Convoy destroyed, reported Commander Yang Sulki from her tactical station. All cargo vessels eliminated. The Drakon garrison on Kepler 186b will not receive supplies for at least 2 months. Ji-won nodded as she studied the holographic display showing Drakon territory. Red zones marked areas where human forces had cut supply lines and disrupted enemy communications. The map showed a pattern of systematic destruction that was slowly strangling the Drakon war machine. "What is the status of Operation Cascade?" she asked. 17 star systems liberated in the past month, Yang replied. Local populations are cooperating with liberation forces. Enemy resistance is weakening as word spreads about human treatment of prisoners and civilians. The war had evolved beyond simple revenge. As human fleets pushed deeper into Drakon territory, they discovered dozens of enslaved alien species who had been oppressed by the hegemony for centuries. Instead of conquering these worlds, humans offered partnership and freedom. On the bridge's communication screen, Captain Kang Woo-jin appeared from the liberated world of Proxima Centauri b. Behind him, representatives of 3 different alien species worked alongside human officers. The Zenthari have provided us with their shield technology, Wujin reported. Their defensive systems are more advanced than anything we have developed. Combined with our weapons, our ships are now nearly invincible. Jiwan smiled at the news. The Zenthari had been slaves of the Draken Empire for over 400 years. When human forces liberated their homeworld, the grateful aliens had immediately joined the fight against their former masters. The Mechtan engineers have improved our manufacturing capabilities by 40%, added Lieutenant Park Hyojin from another liberated system. They can build warships twice as fast as our Earth-based facilities. The alliance between humans and liberated species was growing stronger every day. Each freed world added new capabilities to the resistance movement. The Dracon policy of enslaving other species had created an enormous population of potential rebels who needed only hope and weapons to join the fight. But the Star Sovereign was not willing to accept defeat quietly. Veltak had ordered increasingly desperate measures to stop the human advance, including the destruction of entire planets, rather than allowing them to be liberated. The orbital bombardment of New Geneva had shocked even hardened human military commanders. The colony world held 2.3 million human civilians who had never participated in military operations. Draken battlecruisers had systematically destroyed every city and settlement on the planet's surface. Admiral Jiwan watched the recordings of the genocide with tears in her eyes. Children running from falling buildings, hospitals burning as energy beams struck them again and again, families holding each other as their world died around them. He wants us to surrender to save civilian lives, she said quietly to her staff. He does not understand that murdering innocents only makes us more determined to destroy him completely. The news of New Geneva reached every human settlement and military base within hours. Instead of weakening human resolve, the atrocity created a new level of determination. Recruitment for military service increased by 300% overnight. Factory workers volunteered for additional shifts to build more weapons faster. President Lee Jinho addressed the human species from his emergency bunker on Earth. His face showed the exhaustion of leading a civilization at total war, but his voice carried absolute conviction. The Star Sovereign believes that murdering our civilians will break our will to fight, he said to the billions of humans watching. He is wrong. Every innocent life he takes only strengthens our commitment to ensuring that no species ever again suffers under Draken oppression. General Huang Minqi received authorization to implement the Titan Protocol, the most ambitious military project in human history. Massive mobile battle stations would serve as both military bases and liberation centers, capable of defending entire star systems while providing aid to newly freed populations. Titan II was launched from the orbital shipyards around Mars 6 months after New Geneva. The battle station was larger than most cities, armed with weapons that could destroy planets and equipped with facilities to house millions of refugees from liberated worlds. Each Titan station represents everything we fight for, General Huang explained to his officers. Not just military power, but the promise of protection for those who choose freedom over slavery. The psychological impact of the Titans was enormous. Draken forces had never faced anything like the massive stations that could appear in any star system and establish immediate control. More importantly, enslaved populations saw the Titans as symbols of hope and liberation. On the Drakon homeworld of Draken Prime, Star Sovereign Velthak faced a crisis unlike anything in the 1,000-year history of his empire. His military commanders reported defeat after defeat. His enslaved populations were rebelling on dozens of worlds. His own nobles were beginning to question his leadership. The humans have gained the support of 43 different species, reported Intelligence Director Vex Malakar during an emergency council meeting. Our former slaves are providing them with advanced technology and tactical information. How is this possible? Velthak demanded. We ruled these species for centuries without significant resistance. The humans treat conquered populations as equals rather than slaves, Malakar explained reluctantly. They offer partnership instead of domination. Many species see them as liberators rather than conquerors. General Krex Valdrin, one of the few surviving senior commanders, provided additional, disturbing news. Several of our own officers have requested transfers to non-combat positions. Morale among our troops is declining as they learn about human treatment of prisoners. The Draken military had always maintained discipline through fear and brutal punishment. But fighting an enemy that showed mercy to captured soldiers and protected civilian populations was creating doubts among troops who had never questioned their orders before. Some of our soldiers are deliberately allowing themselves to be captured, Valdrin admitted. Human prison camps provide better living conditions than many of our military bases. Commander Yoon Jae-sung led the Human Special Forces unit that had infiltrated deep into Drakon space to gather intelligence about enemy capabilities and plans. His team discovered something that changed their understanding of the entire conflict. The Drakon Empire is not as unified as they pretend, he reported during a encrypted communication with Earth Command. Dozens of noble families are plotting against the Star Sovereign. They blame him for starting an unwinnable war with humanity. This intelligence reached Admiral Jiwon just as she was planning the final phase of Operation Cascade. Instead of a direct assault on the Draken core systems, she decided to encourage the growing internal rebellion within the enemy empire. Broadcast this message on all Draken communication channels, she ordered her propaganda specialists. Any Draken noble who declares independence from the Star Sovereign will receive human protection and support. The offer split the Draken Empire in half almost overnight. Noble families who had secretly opposed Veltak's brutal policies saw an opportunity to save their territories from the approaching human fleets. Within weeks, 17 Drakon systems had declared neutrality or alliance with the Human Liberation Forces. Star Sovereign Veltak watched his empire crumble from within as external pressure from human forces continued to destroy his military capabilities. The species he had dismissed as weak primitives had somehow turned his greatest strength, the vast network of enslaved worlds, into his greatest weakness. We must destroy the human homeworld before this rebellion spreads further, he declared during an emergency meeting with his remaining loyal commanders. Gather every available warship for a final assault on Earth. But Admiral Valdrin shook his head grimly. My sovereign, we no longer have enough ships for such an attack. Half our fleet has been destroyed by human forces. The other half is needed to defend our core systems from liberation armies. Then we will use the planet-killer weapons, Veltak decided desperately. If we cannot rule the galaxy, we will ensure the humans cannot either. The Planet Killer project had been a secret Drakon weapon program designed to destroy entire worlds by destabilizing their planetary cores. Only 3 such weapons had ever been built, hidden in the most secure military facilities in Drakon space. Commander, Yoon Jae-sung's intelligence network intercepted communications about the Planet Killer weapons just hours before they were scheduled to be deployed against Earth and 2 major human colonies. Emergency transmission to all human fleets, Jae-sung reported to Admiral Jiwon. The enemy plans to destroy our homeworld using superweapons. We have less than 72 hours to stop them. The final race against time had begun. 3 separate human strike forces launched simultaneous attacks on the secret Drakon facilities housing the planet-killer weapons. The missions were desperate, gambles requiring perfect coordination across hundreds of light years. Captain Ryu Somin led the assault on the facility closest to Earth. Her sister Dr. Ryu Sojong had B. The largest fleet in galactic history gathered in the darkness around Drakon Prime. Admiral Kim Dongwoo stood on the bridge of the command ship Liberation, watching hundreds of vessels from dozens of different species take their positions for the final assault. Human warships flew alongside Zenthari cruisers, Mechtan engineering vessels, and ships from 40 other species that had joined the fight against Draken oppression. Each vessel carried the scars of years of warfare, but also the hope of freedom for billions of enslaved beings. All fleets report ready status, announced Communications Officer Lee Min-hyung. 2,300 ships standing by for final operations. Dongwoo studied the tactical display showing Drakon Prime below them. The planet looked peaceful from orbit, its cities glowing softly in the night. But somewhere in the capital city, Star Sovereign Veltak waited in his fortress, palace, surrounded by the last loyal soldiers of his crumbling empire. Begin orbital scan for civilian populations, Dongwu ordered. I want evacuation routes planned for all non-combatant areas. Unlike the Draken military, human forces had strict rules about protecting innocent lives during warfare. Even enemy, civilians deserved safety while their government fell. Captain Ryu So-min prepared her special assault team in the hangar bay of the heavy cruiser Vengeance. Around her, 300 of humanity's best soldiers checked their equipment one final time. Their mission was simple but dangerous. Capture the Star Sovereign alive and bring an end to his reign of terror. Remember what we fight for, So-min told her troops as they prepared to board their assault ships. 4 years ago, 30 human women died in that palace below us. Today, we ensure that no innocent person ever again suffers under Drakon brutality. Sergeant Park Jae-hyun, veteran of a dozen liberation campaigns, raised his hand with a question. Captain, what if the Star Sovereign refuses to surrender? So-min thought about her sister, Dr. Ryu So-jung, who had carried medical supplies to heal alien diseases and had died for the crime of being female and human. Then we show him the same mercy he showed our diplomats. The assault began at dawn on Draken Prime. Human dropships descended through the atmosphere while orbital bombardment eliminated military targets with surgical precision. The goal was not to destroy the planet, but to minimize casualties while removing the Star Sovereign from power. Drakon Palace guards fought with desperate courage, knowing that defeat meant the end of their entire way of life. But they faced human soldiers who had spent 4 years learning to fight against superior technology and numbers. Commander Yoon Jae-sung led the first wave through the palace's outer defenses. His team used advanced armor and weapons, but more importantly, they fought with the flexibility and creativity that had made human forces so effective throughout the war. Breaching the throne room level, he reported to Captain So-min over the communication system. Heavy resistance, but we are advancing steadily. The battle inside the palace lasted 6 hours. Drakon soldiers defended every corridor and room with energy weapons and personal shields. But human tactics of cooperation and adaptation, gradually, overwhelmed the rigid defensive positions. Finally, Captain So-min and her team reached the massive doors of the throne room, where the Star Sovereign waited for his final confrontation. The doors were made of some kind of alien metal that gleamed with inner light, carved with symbols representing 1,000 years of Drakon dominance. Thermal scans show 15 life signs inside, reported technical specialist Kim Yeon-woo. The Star Sovereign and his personal guard. So-min placed her hand on the door and thought about all the innocent people who had died because of the being waiting beyond it. The 30 human women were only the beginning. Millions of aliens had suffered and died under Draken rule over the centuries. Breach the doors, she ordered. The throne room was enormous, designed to make visitors feel small and powerless. Columns stretched up toward a ceiling lost in shadows. At the far end, on a throne made of black crystal, sat Star Sovereign Veltak. He had not changed much in 4 years of war, still nearly 3 meters tall with purple skin marked by silver patterns. But his golden robes were torn and stained, and his glowing eyes showed the exhaustion of a ruler whose empire had crumbled around him. 15 Draken guards stood between the humans and their target, energy weapons charged and ready for a final battle. You have come far from your pathetic homeworld, Veltak said in his deep voice. But you will not leave this room alive. Captain So-min walked forward until she was close enough to see the alien ruler clearly. I am Captain Ryu So-min of the United Earth Military. My sister Dr. Ryu So-jung was among the 30 women you murdered 4 years ago. The females who dared to show disrespect to their betters, Veltak replied without emotion. Their deaths taught your species proper behavior. Their deaths taught our species that some crimes cannot be forgiven or forgotten, So-min replied. Surrender now and you will be given a fair trial. Continue to resist, and you will share the fate you gave to innocent diplomats. The Star Sovereign stood slowly from his throne, his forearms spreading wide as if to embrace the destruction around him. I am the master of 800 star systems. I do not surrender to inferior beings. You were the master of 800 star systems, So-min corrected him. Now you are a war criminal hiding in the ruins of a failed empire. Velthak gestured to his guards, who raised their weapons toward the human soldiers. But years of fighting had taught humans to anticipate enemy movements and react faster than their opponents expected. The final battle in the throne room lasted less than 3 minutes. Human soldiers used coordinated tactics and superior equipment to eliminate the Draken guards without taking casualties. When the shooting stopped, only Star Sovereign Velthak remained alive. He stood alone beside his crystal throne, no longer the terrifying ruler of a galactic empire but simply an old alien who had chosen violence over wisdom and brought destruction to his own people. "It is finished," Captain Soman said as she placed restraints on the former Star Sovereign. "The Drakon hegemony is ended." News of Velthak's capture spread across the galaxy within hours. On liberated worlds, celebrations began, as people realized they were finally free from centuries of oppression. On Earth, memorial services honored the 30 women whose deaths had sparked the war that freed the galaxy. The Crystal Throne Room became the site of the galaxy's first war crimes trial. Representatives from dozens of species testified about Drakon atrocities committed over centuries of rule. The evidence filled thousands of documents describing genocide, slavery, and systematic brutality. Star Sovereign Velthak sat in the defendant's chair, no longer wearing royal robes but simple prison clothing. He listened to the testimony without emotion, as if the suffering of billions of beings meant nothing to him. The defendant is charged with crimes against sentient life, including genocide, slavery, and the murder of diplomatic personnel, announced Judge Park Ji-hye, daughter of the late Dr. Park Mirai, who had died at Nexus Prime. The trial lasted 3 months. When it ended, Velthak was found guilty on all charges and sentenced to life imprisonment on a remote prison planet, where he could never again harm innocent people. But the real victory was not the punishment of one tyrant. Representatives from liberated worlds gathered on the former Drakon Prime, now renamed Freedom Station, to create a new form of government for the galaxy. Ambassador Park Ji-hye stood before the assembled delegates from dozens of species. Behind her, a holographic display showed the faces of the 30 human women whose deaths had begun the transformation of galactic civilization. 4 years ago, these women came seeking peace and friendship among the stars, she said to the gathered representatives. They were murdered by a tyrant who believed that might makes right and that some species exist only to serve others. The audience listened in respectful silence as she continued. Today we established the Galactic Federation based on the principles they died for. That all intelligent life deserves freedom, dignity, and the right to determine its own destiny. Never again will one species rule over others through fear and violence. The Federation Charter was signed by representatives of 87 different species. It established democracy, protected individual rights, and created mutual defense agreements to prevent future tyrants from conquering free worlds. Earth became the Federation capital, not because humans had won the war, but because they had shown that victory without justice was meaningless. The same species that had sought peaceful contact with aliens became the leaders of a new era of galactic cooperation. President Lee Jin-ho, now an old man worn down by years of leading humanity through total war, spoke at the dedication ceremony for the memorial of the 30. The crystalline monument stood where the women had been murdered, transformed from a place of death into a symbol of hope. They sought peace and were met with violence, he said to the representatives of free worlds, gathered around the memorial. We answered that violence with justice. May the galaxy never forget that peace must be protected by those willing to fight for it. The names of the 30 women were carved into the memorial in the languages of every Federation species. Ambassador Kim Hana, Dr. Park Mirai, Engineer Nam So-young, and 27 others who had died for the crime of seeking friendship among the stars,